class, but just for everybody's understanding. When you look at React, right? Uh, when you look at React, please stop. Apologies. Uh, this is a typical web page that you will see, but if you logically think of this web page, you see there is an Airbnb logo in the left corner. Then there are two buttons which say stays and experiences, and then Airbnb home, and then a user profile. All of these things can be considered independent elements. Yeah, for example, this search bar, all of this can be considered independent elements. And React allows you to break your websites into these independent elements. And you might ask, why to even do that, you know? So once you do break your website into smaller independent elements, or as we call it in React's world, components, you are able to manage your project better, and you are able to add more things quickly without needing to change the entire web page, you know. Imagine if this entire thing was a single web page and now you wanted to just change Airbnb logo's color to something else. You need to make the adjustment to the entire web page, which essentially means you need to change the code in entire page, you know, which is in practical worlds very risky. And that's where React comes in. It gives you the independent components which can be modified and updated independently, so that you are able to uh, work in isolation and not affect the other parts of your application. So that being the core motto behind React, breaking your web applications into smaller, manageable, independent components. And this is where the sort of whole why React came into existence, that motto comes in. There is another important concept which we will cover about React in future topics, which is little advanced, which is called data binding. React solves another big issue of data binding. And very quickly, what data bindings is, anything that you see on this page, right? These images, all of these are nothing but elements of data which are stored somewhere on a server, um, uh, which is stored somewhere on the server, which uh, which which you display on your web page. So, well, that's an advanced topic, and we'll be covering in detail in future sections. But today's most important part is how do you get started with React, you know? So, to get started with React, you need something called NodeJS on your machines. Um, are there anybody in this class who are not familiar with Node.js? Node.js as a tool. If you are not familiar, that's okay. It is not a prerequisite to have learned the Node.js. But if you know it, it makes your today's exercise little easier. But it by no means you must know it. So for the people who are not aware about Node.js, it's a JavaScript based. So JavaScript is a programming language, and it's JavaScript based tooling system which allows you to sort of do the various kinds of activities using JavaScript. So if we look at the Node.js, right? Uh, First, you will need to do is do simple Google search Node.js install, and you will be landing on the Node.js page, and you go and hit the Node.js download. Depending upon your machine, if you're using a web, um, um, MacBook or or a Windows, you might run into different kinds of installation packages, but that is okay. No, you will be able to install the Node.js as long as you have the administrative rights to the machine. I have seen a lot of students and lots of people struggle with installing Node.js because they are unable to, or they do not have simply do not have the administrative rights on their machine. So for people who are on Windows, right, they can simply do, but if they want to check, they can just simply do something like this, run as admin or something that used to be Windows, or on the command prompt, you can do if you're on the Mac, or this works on the newer Windows machines as well. Is you can open your PowerShell, and I'll put all of this in the class notes so that you guys do need to actually remember this immediately. But all you can do is run a command called sudo. So this is a terminal. Before I jump too fast ahead, PowerShell in a traditional uh, sense is a terminal that allows you to run stuff on your computer from a command line interface. Uh, Traditionally, when you want to run an application, you click on that application and you run it. Very similarly, you can use PowerShell or in MacBook terms, something called terminal. MacBook provides terminal. You can search on your Mac something called terminal, and you'll be able to see similar window opening, and it will open a place where you can enter some commands. So sudo is one command which lets you see if you have the administrative rights on your machine or not. So simply by check if you have administrative rights by saying sudo and then ls, and simply it will just run the commands mostly on your MacBooks, or on Windows. It's sudo maybe not working, but that's okay. But on your MacBooks, you will be able to see it. For the most parts, you will not be blocked for installing the Node.js, uh, because probably you are using computers which are your personal. Anybody here who is not using computer that is their uh, personal computer? Uh, uh, for the check-ins, I'll take this. I'll make sure you guys get credited for the check-in. So uh, I'll make sure before you we drop off. We'll do a quick check-in screenshot. So we should be good because I'm recording this session. So you guys don't worry about the check-ins. Okay. I have everybody's name who has joined the class today, and so we were on installing Node.js. So assuming that you have installed the Node.js, you can hit download and it'll just say it'll just download a binary here, and then you can click on it. I'm not going to do it because I already have it, but I'll hit cancel. But you would be, uh, I'll be canceling out because I already have the Node.js installed. But you should be able to do next and install. If you're run into any kinds of issue while installing Node.js on your when you're on the when you're doing it, uh, just message me on Slack and we should be able to debug. So that's another important topic that you guys do not need to hesitate to reach out to me one on one if you need to. Uh, if you it's a small question where you're trying to run the project and you're stuck, just message me on Slack. Or if I'm explaining something here and it's too much for you to understand in this session, if you need more clarity, I will provide my one-on-one links where you can book time with me and we can resolve those doubts one-on-one as well. So I encourage you all to participate uh, and uh, and do the stuff as we uh, do in the class. I would suggest not to do it while I'm showing it, so that you guys are focused on the actually content that is being presented. But do practice this once the class is over. I'll make sure to upload the class videos on YouTube. So if you want to rewatch anything, you would be able to um, go back and you will get all the commands that we are trying here. You will be able to uh, see it on your see it in GitHub or any some other place where you'll have the reference. So you will not be left in a while you do this exercises after the class. So hopefully once the Node.js is installed, um, you should be able to see the version of Node.js that is installed. And to do that, we need to do a command called node version. Once you do the node version, you should see something printed right beneath it. If you do not see anything, that means, or you see command not found when you do this, that means Node.js is not installed. And when you install Node.js, you typically install the npm as well. npm comes bundled with the Node.js. So npm is nothing but a package manager that comes with Node.js. Now, what is package manager? Think of package manager as a warehouse where different kinds of tools that you need for running your React project or your Angular project or your Vue project, all those tools live, and you can request any tool from that package manager anytime you like, and it will give you the tools, and it maintains the different versions of those tools as well, and you can, depending upon your needs, you can install different versions of those tools, or in our case packages. So we will very quickly we will see those packages as well. So quickly, you have to check two things in your machine once you install the Node.js. Both these commands, node version as well as npm-dash version, should show something. If they do not, if you are not seeing something, that means there is an issue with your Node.js installation. Um, but you do not need to worry about it. If you ever get stuck, you just ping me and we can resolve the issues you might be seeing. The second thing that you need is an IDE. Now, Visual Studio Code, how many are not familiar with Visual Studio Code? I'm assuming that's everybody is familiar with Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code is a IDE that allows you to write your code, and it helps you to uh, simply write your code, and it's open source and free, so you don't need to pay anything. And also Node.js is open source and free, so make sure you're not paying anything for installing both these tools. If you're doing it, that means you have run into you are going through a wrong link. But once you have the Visual Studio Code installed, you should be able to uh, see software like this on your machine, and you should be able to utilize it for your coding. So once you have installed both of this, we can move on to creating the um, React first React application. So if you look at your textbooks, right, the current textbooks that are provided on the page 13, there is there are some commands. You can ignore this or read up if you like. Uh, Not too important, but you'll get familiar with these commands anyways once you uh, play with the project uh, often enough or few times. So we definitely do not need to do PWD uh, or anything, because on your terminals you see where you are on this. You can play with those commands if you like. There is no harm, uh, and and the guidebook gives you the command for the textbook gives you the commands for both Windows as well as Mac or Linux. So pwd is more of a Linux command, and sort of cd is Windows command. So it lists where you are, but we are seeing the same information here. Very quickly looking at all the commands. Um, dir lists all the directories that are there in the current folder. So if I were to go in my C drive and open the repo folder, I will see all of these folders in this, but that's okay. You do not need to memorize this. This will come to you naturally uh, as you code and as you play with the React and React world. We definitely don't need to do mkdir because we are going to use something called white to create our React project. So we are going to initiate a fresh React project. Before I go there, anybody has any questions or they have any confusions till now about any of the topics we have covered? Or am I going slow? Am I going fast? You guys want me to slow down? Any questions, class? I invite you to all of you to participate and let's make this a sort of two-way communication
It's
channel.
okay, we are understanding.
Thanks, Usman. Thanks. So
I
if you guys,
have a question, actually. Hello, Anu.
sure.
Could you tell me, please, this what you do, you are installing the environment, yes, for our project. And
Yes.
I have a question. You do it on your MacBook, yes? And
So
will it work for Windows or no?
so whatever I'm doing right now in the class live is on a Windows machine. So right now I'm on a Windows machine. But
Okay, thank
for anybody who is on the Mac, I do have a MacBook as well, and I do a lot of these things on my MacBook as well. So I'll be able to help you guys regardless of the machine type. But yes, for your question, yes, right now we are on a Windows machine for this class, and maybe I'll will try on a MacBook to cover other people next week or the week after. But the commands really don't matter much. I think the installation of Node.js might be a little different, and I definitely not advise you guys to remember these commands. They will come to you naturally, and this is what one of the course I will tell you from my journey of software development for last 11 years now, and bit more than that, is that we have so much tooling, we have so many commands that it is probably impossible to remember everything. But as long as you have the brief idea of what you want to do, as well as you know the concept, you will be able to quickly Google it up or 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 maybe use something like ChatGPT to sort of figure those commands out, which actually takes us to an interesting topic. I know a lot of instructors um, are a little bit against ChatGPT for their classes. I have a dual approach around using ChatGPT and Gen AI tools. Maybe you're using Claude or anything else. Is it is okay to use them as long as you understand the output that is produced by ChatGPT. As long as you think that you're just copy pasting the stuff from ChatGPT or something else, that means you're not learning, and that's the place when you should be honest to yourself and take a step back. And why I say that is you might use ChatGPT and do your exercises and get the best grades out of it, but the grades are just one part of the story. And my aim is for you guys to be able to confidently sit in an interview where React questions are being asked and explain the concepts and write the code if somebody asks you to on a whiteboard. And there, the concepts matter the most, not the syntax. When you're explaining somebody on a whiteboard, nobody remembers the exact syntax of code, but they know the concept. So if you are unable to do that, then it defeats the purpose. So I leave it to your judgment, but please remember when you use ChatGPT or something like that, make sure you're not doing it just to avoid the, as I as I say, when you're trying to learn something new like this, there is a pain associated with it. There's a lot of learning. You have to do new stuff, and there's a mild pain associated with it. Let's be honest about it. It's a new concepts and everything, and you have to ensure that you're not bypassing that pain because that pain strengthens your knowledge. So that being my take on ChatGPT, and I definitely don't block you guys from using it when you're learning. So take it to your judgment. So now that we have Node.js and NPM installed, uh, we need to create a new React project. What is a new React project? It is like building a new website from the ground up. You have some idea, let's say you want to launch your e-commerce website, but where do you get even started? That's where you have to initiate a React project. And there are a couple of ways to create React projects. One way to do it is using Byte, which is an ecosystem that comes from uh, creator of Vue framework. Vue is just like React, another framework for building web applications which are component based. So if you learn React, you should be very confident to sort of jump onto Vue as well. That so you have to go to that level, where you understand the React good enough so that you can go to another project and not feel overwhelmed. So that being, it's an ecosystem which provides some commands to create a new React project. So we saw some commands like cd. Yes, white is like create React app, and Reza, you do bring up a good point. I will show you guys how to use create React app. So create React app is just like white, another ecosystem for creating new React applications, and we'll create the React applications both way. The textbook only covers the white way using the white, but it is actually very beneficial to learn to use create React app as well, because many places still use create React app, uh, because some of these projects are long running React projects. So we will see it as another bonus. So Risa, thanks for reminding. So that's another bonus for today. You will see two ways to create React apps, but first with the uh, white. So if you go to your textbooks, right, the command is already given. So you should be able to copy it. And I will put these commands in a one single document so you guys don't have to search too much. But you can copy this command and go to your terminal and paste it. We'll do one modification. So if let's understand what this command is doing. It is npm is the command that we just saw. We saw its version. So make sure you have Node.js installed. And then npm, then create, then byte is a package that I was describing, is the tooling that is created by the Vue's creator. Hacker Stories is our project name. Let's change it to something else. My first app, and then you do dash dash dash, dash template and then React, and then when you hit enter. If you do not have White installed, it will say it might ask you to install White. If you're doing it for the first time, you just press Y in that case. So just a note there. You might not see this screen immediately, but instead you might be asked to install White if you're doing it for the first time. But that's okay. Just accept it and you're good to go. If you see this, As soon as we are done, there is the output produced by the command that we gave. It is asking us to cd into the folder. That means it is asking us to go to the folder which contains our newly created app. So White tooling has created a folder for us which is of the same name of our app. And where is our app's name? It's the same name that we provided while creating the app. So we can use the command, simply copy it from here and paste it here, and we can do cd into the folder. And now we are inside the our application. Now it is asking us to do something else. It is asking us to do npm install. What is npm install? So as I was explaining, right, npm is a package manager. Think of it as a warehouse where all your tools live to uh, which are you which can be used to run your first application, your React application. So npm install actually does it's like a, let's say, a delivery driver. It goes to the warehouse and brings all those tools and puts on your local computer. So let's do npm install. So it's going to pull all the tools or all the packages, as we call it in the professional world, and put it in your, there's a special folder which we will see in very soon. It will put all of those tools into the special folder. And let's first let this install. It takes few minutes uh, while it's installing. Any questions till now for how to create the first app?
I have a question. While installing, I have a message that I have unsupported engine. It's like warning. I can send you a screenshot.
Sure. That seems to be very specific to your machine, but yeah, yeah, we'll check that out.
Unable to save file due to admin restrictions. I can't send a screenshot here.
Yeah, you just do one thing after we can see it after the class. You send the screenshot over the Slack if it restricts. Uh,
After
uh,
the okay.
yeah, or we if the time is left at the end of the class, we can stop recording and see your machine. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So now that
I also have a question, if I may.
sure, sure.
So after the command create void, so there was an option, like you said, proceed to install with void or not, and there was Y to proceed. So I okayed Y to proceed, but there's also select a variant, and there are four variants: TypeScript, TypeScript plus SWC, JavaScript, JavaScript plus WC.
So are you using the exact command? You should not see the variant, but maybe
I used the dot command like that was in the instructions.
okay.
So NVM and Create void at latest, but instead of picking the name, my first app, I just used dot.
Yeah,
And
so
then mhm.
that will open another few stuff. So if you do dot, you can use JavaScript actually. There's option. Can you repeat the options again? If you're seeing.
Mhm. So should I go ahead with the
So
JavaScript?
you did it like this, right? Just
Yeah, space and dot, and then dash dash.
mm, copy from white lattice, and then from here
Instead of hacker stories.
you just did dot.
Mhm.
Then what did you do?
So it asked me to proceed whether to install void or not, and I
That's
proceeded with
okay.
yes. And then it asks to select a framework, and I picked React. And then another question is select a variant.
continue. Okay, so that means actually you're going through the uh, entire instruction set, right? So I think that's something I'll have to see with white. Maybe it's an options that you're seeing. I'm not able to see those options. So yes, send me that command on the Slack and we can check. But for now, if you're seeing the variants as JavaScript or TypeScript, use JavaScript. Okay. Can you tell me the variants again?
TypeScript plus WS plus SWC, JavaScript, and JavaScript plus SWC.
Just select JavaScript.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So going back to our commands, we were asked to do npm install. So that we did, and you should be able to uh, sort of run it. And then the next command is npm run dev. So once you do, um, now there is a local server. So what is a local server? It is like a space which runs your website. So a server has been created for us, which runs our websites, and it gives us the URL of our application as well. Uh, and we go to that URL in our browser, uh, and you should be seeing very soon the new website that we are trying to load has been created. So this is a new website that we just created where white plus React is written. Um, Depending upon the template, you might see a little different, but you must be seeing some website when you do this. That only means that your website is running fine. If you see something like this, right? This site can't be loaded or something like that. This means your website is not working properly, and you should see the URL of your website when you run the npm run dev command. So this is very quick setup of your first project, but let's look at what this project is. So you go to your Visual Studio Code, and then I typically do open folder, and which I recommend all of you to do, and go to the folder that that was created. So we created my first app, right? And if you see now, once we select my first app, there is something loaded in the left section of our file explorer. And I was telling about that delivery driver that goes to warehouse and fetches all the packages for us. Once it fetches all the packages, it's very organized delivery driver. It doesn't just randomly put everywhere in the house, but it goes to a specific room, in our case, a specific folder, which is called node modules, and puts all the uh, packages that we need to run our website. So if you expand it, this you will not need to do it in 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 day-to-day life, but just for the learning and understanding purposes. If you see, these are all the tools and packages that were installed for us so that our website could run, and that there are quite many of them. You will, in a typical scenario, you will never need to modify inside these, and you will not need to do any changes. So um, this is uh, this is something that you should still remember, though, that there will be a node modules folder, and if this is not present in your project, then you will be having all kinds of issues running your project. And you should look to go back and do the npm space install command on your command prompt. Then it comes to the important, there's another important file, something called package.json. If you open that file and go, if you look at the line 12, something, is this visible or I should make it large? Let me know if you guys have hard time reading it. But there is something called dependencies and there is called dev dependencies. These are the toolings or packages that, these are the two places which define the tooling or the packages that are necessary for our project to run properly. So if you see dependencies, React and React DOM. So these are the two dependencies that, uh, are you guys not seeing the screen share? Let me share back.
We can see screen.
So I hope you guys are able to see it.
A little bit zoom it, please.
Yeah. I'm zooming for you guys.
I have a question.
Sure.
Um, Usually, I would run npm install in the terminal. I noticed you did it in the PowerShell or outside
No,
the VS Code terminal.
Yes, that's a very good point, and a lot of people are familiar with that. Uh, I'm quite used to doing it outside, but
Okay.
if you, for people who are familiar with the VS Code, yes, I like to see entire window of VS Code when I'm coding, so that's my preference. Uh, but if you people are who are familiar with VS Code, there's something called terminal, and you can click new terminal and opens the very similar terminal that we are seeing here, and you do not need to switch between windows, and many people like it that way. I typically like to capture the entire area file while coding, so I use it a separate outside terminal. uh, but it's perfectly fine if you use this one. Okay, it is perfectly fine. So as I was describing, the packages or the dependencies that we uh, what dependencies or packages, or in simple terms, what tools we need for running our website, they are defined here. So for example, because we are React, we need React and React DOM. So when you do npm install reads this package.json file and looks for dependencies and their dependencies variables, and then reads all the values underneath them, and then downloads them from the package manager or your warehouse. So these are very two important blocks that you should understand in more detail. And I encourage you guys to read a bit more about dependencies and their dependencies, because this is something that, while it's straightforward for a first application, when you go to real world applications, you will be adding some dependencies and their dependencies on your own based on your unique needs. So understanding both of these blocks are very crucial to when you go to real projects or real world. And then comes, if you look at the line 6, there is something called scripts, and there we define the scripts which are run to do something about our project. So we ran a script. Let me stop it and show you guys again. We ran a script by saying npm, then space, then run, then we gave this name. You see, this was exact name. So for example, if I change this name to let's say new name, right? now if you go, if I copied the command from before, I would get the error because it's saying it's missing the script dev. So this name and the name that you give after the npm pest run should exactly match up. This has to match up. This key, which is called new name, must be present under your script tags. So this allows you to, instead of now npm run dev, we ran our project with npm run new name. And if you go back to your project again, uh, go back to your project again, it is now uh, running. The project is still running, even though we change our command's name. So it is important to understand the script tags and dependencies and dev dependencies. We'll learn about the other commands like build and lint and preview a little later in the project. But for now, all of you, once you install the dependencies and run the project, you will see something like this, and you will be able to run your websites. So this is how you run your project using White ecosystem. There is another famous ecosystem which textbook doesn't cover much in detail, but somebody mentioned very uh, properly is create react app. So let me grab that command. Something called There's something called create react app. Let's create a new React project. And here we use npx. Npx comes just like npm. Npx also comes bundled with Node.js. You don't need to worry about npx command, but you can do npx, then create React app, and then give uh, my first, let's say my second React app. And this also does this very similar thing. It initiates a new React-based web application for you. You may ask, what is the difference between Create React app and White ecosystem? White is more based on the Vue architecture, and the Create React app is more traditional way of doing it, and it aligns more with the React ecosystems. So a lot of projects and a lot of companies use Create React app, but White is catching up fast. So I would suggest you guys to understand both of these commands, and I will include this into into the notes for today so that you guys have both ways to do it. But you simply do npx, then create react app is our command name, and then my second app is our project name, and then you do hit install, and let's install. It takes a bit of a time. And now if you see, it is creating a new React application for us. Takes a bit of time. How many, while this is installing, anybody here who has not used Git or GitHub in past? So I'm assuming everybody has used it. But if you have not, Git is a version manager that is useful for saving your project online, so that even if your, let's say your computer was, let's say it broke or something happened, or maybe it was lost due to some reason, you're still able, your work is not lost, and you're still able to continue from where you had stopped. That's one advantage. The other advantage is, let's say multiple people are working on the same project, they can they can all have the copy of project, and they can parallelly or simultaneously contribute to the project. So Git is very famous, and if you do not have a GitHub account, it's a free account. I encourage all of you to uh, have a GitHub account. A lot of these notes will be shared on GitHub, so uh, I encourage all of you to sort of do it. So now we have created a React app using Create React tooling, and it's saying we suggest that you begin by typing cd to my second app. So if you remember, we had done very similar to a similar thing to this in the white as well. We cd, that means we went inside the folder of our newly created app, my, and we go to my second app, and then there's a difference here. In case of white, we had to manually install our dependencies, that is fetching all the toolings from warehouse. But Create React app has one benefit. It does that for us. If you read back the different tests that were produced while creating the new React app, you will learn that it is already adding those dependencies automatically for us for the first time. So it saves us extra step, and we can simply do npm run start, or a start is a unique command for npm, where you can only for start you can omit the run word. I believe you can do it for the test as well. Npm test and npm start are two commands where you do not need to type run before that. But if you type it as well, there is no issue. For example, here it's asking us to do npm start, and we could do that. Or if you did the npm run start, that would work as well. It will not give any error. So if we do this, it starts to spin up the server just like we had in the white, and and we should soon see the new project, a new website that was created. Uh, that being that this is additional to what textbook mentions, and if you have only mastered how to create the application using white tooling, then only I encourage you to do this. If you if you do this, it will actually teach you more about the toolings and how to use the terminal and how to work with the terminal and all. And we'll go from there. So while this is starting, there's another bonus thing that I want you guys to study about and learn is, remember we had uh, Node.js install in the first step of first part of this uh, class. Now Node.js, uh, because this is loaded, this is loading. We'll cover it after this is done, and let's see your project. And so it's using different port. So if you look at our website, right, here is something called localhost, and then there's something called 5373. So it is nothing but, in traditional web development terms, or traditional traditional sense, it is a URL. So this is a host, something like www.google.com, and then this is the port. So port is nothing but entry into the system, which tells you the exact. So you could think of this as a street name, and this could be your exact house number. So our React application with the Create React app is running on this port. It's still building for us. And very similarly, the white the white React application that we had was running on the same street, but on the different house number, which is 5173. And here this is running on the 3000. And the beauty of using ports is we could have multiple websites running. Uh, let's start our. Remember, for the white, the command is npm run dev. For create React, the command is npm run start or just simply npm start. So the benefit of having the house number is we are able to now run two websites simultaneously on our machines by just saying that this website runs on the port number 5173 and this website runs on the port number 3000. And that is a great segue to the bonus thing that I wanted to discuss with you guys. It's many times, before I jump into bonus, anybody has any confusions about this, the Create React app and what it does, and how we are running two projects at the same time on our single machine. Any confusions? Is it overwhelming, or are you guys following? Anybody? Any questions? I assume no questions. So now this, as you see, we have two different websites running, and that is a very real scenario. When you are actually working at a company or at a organization, or somewhere which is professionally, you will be working on more than one project at a time. Let's say you're building an e-commerce platform. You might be working on a page that shows all the products, and very same time you might be working on a page that is highlighting different items that are added in your shopping cart. And both of these product projects would be completely different React apps as altogether. That is very real possibility that happens all the time. And one of the major things that happens in this is Node.js that we saw. It is also, it comes with its own version. If we go back to the command prompt and see Node.js version, right now the version that is installed on my machine, or the one that I'm using, is 22.3.0. And typically Node.js comes with different versions. Just think of it as, let's say, uh, your different, let's say, different versions of, let's say, your Nike shoes, So they have some differences between those, and those versions might make your projects incompatible. And to fix those incompatibilities, you will have to actually go to your no packages that we are discussing. That's why these two sections, dependencies and dev dependencies, are very important. When you upgrade your Node.js versions, or using different Node.js versions that are then recommended for your specific project, when you go to actual professional work, you will see a lot of different issues. So you have to exactly use the version that is recommended, because all of these projects, for example, React 18, it needs a specific Node.js version or higher. If you are not using that, then your project will break. So right now our machine is using 22.3. It is not so easy to install different. Let's say if you went to a project which uses a Node.js version, which is 20, let's say, it is not so easy to switch the versions in a traditional sense. You'll need to uninstall the versions. And again, this is the bonus content. And if it's overwhelming, I understand. You guys don't need to remember this, or you don't need to um, sort of get bogged down by this. This is just for your pure for your understanding and extra learnings, if you like to. Once you go to real projects, you might be encountering this issue. But this is our first day, I suggest you guys not get overwhelmed. But let's say your project is using different version than one you have on your machine, you have to uninstall and install it again. And this can often happen that you are working on two different websites on the same project, and you'll have to constantly throughout the day uninstall something and install the different node version every other time. To overcome that, the open source community has come up with an amazing tool called NVM. So if you search NVM node, uh, you will land onto this uh, node version manager. Now this is little the installation of node version manager is a little easier for Windows machine as compared to uh, uh, on the Mac. And on the Mac, you'll need to do certain extra steps so that it runs. And it, but I would think of this as a one-time pain that is going to serve you very immensely in the long run. And once you have installed the Node version manager, your terminal should have a new command called NVM. And once you type NVM, you get all kind of help. But importantly for us, if you type NVM then space ls, you see you're able to install different versions of the Node.js, and you might be able to switch between different versions of Node.js rapidly. So for example, on my machine right now, I have Node.js 18 installed as well as Node.js 22 installed instead of just having single version. And I'm currently, because it's showing star, that means I'm using 22.3.
I
Uh,
have a question. I think
sure.
the website you showed us installed Node version 22.11, and then you have 22.3. So will it not work if you don't update it?
It will work. Actually, it will work, and there is not a major breakage between the major versions like 22 and 22.3 versus 22.11. But let's say if I went to a 22 instead of 22, I went to 14 or something, then I'll see all kinds of issues. So these are something called 22 is a major version and .3 is minor version, and usually the people who build the ecosystem, let's say like React ecosystem, they try to make sure that their toolings work on a major version for sure. So yes, I have the Node.js installed a little while earlier when 22.3 was the latest one. Right now it's 22.11 as you said, and that is okay because they Node.js continuously gets evolved. And that's why it is necessary to have the different versions on your machine so that you're able to quickly switch as well. So if you do NVM ls, it shows different version. And let's say if you want to install a new version, so NVM ls, NVM install uh, 18. Let's say if I want 20. So it'll pick whatever the latest node version 20. So it starts to download for me and starts to install the node manager. Uh, Now, if it has finished installing, and if I do NVM ls, we are still on 23. Let's see, and how we can verify again. If you see node version, we are printed 22.3.0, the one that we have in the start. But we can use the any node version we like, which we have installed using NVM use. And let's say if I want um, 20 now, then just do 20.8. 20 or because I just have one version of 20 installed, I could just simply say 20. Otherwise, if you had multiple versions, you specify the entire version like this. Or in my case, I can just do 20 and And now it says we are using Node version
But wouldn't you
20.
want the most recent version, like an Apple software update?
So I think it's, I believe the command for that is NVM install at latest or latest something. So it's actually 23.1 is, you could say latest and it will just fetch whatever the latest. So NVM install latest. That's a good question though. Now if you see, we have 2023 that we just installed using latest, and now we have multiple versions of Node.js on our machines, and we could freely switch between them using NVM use. Let's say if I want to use, as I was doing 23, we'll just do 23, and we should be good to go. Now we have switched to no. If I choose Node version again, instead of 22, we are on Node version 23, and that made our life much easier. And let's say if I want to go back to 22, I just use NVM 22 and we are good to go again. And this is going to be very crucial when you are actually working, because traditionally you'll be working on multiple projects and they will be actually using multiple node versions, most likely. So with that, this is extra bonus. I would suggest not to get overwhelmed by NVM. And if you run into issues installing, as I said, installing NVM is straightforward. Uh, you could say NVM install, and I would suggest give Windows or Mac, right? So Mac has a couple of ways to install. There are good articles. I think I follow this article quite a lot, quite a few times while doing it on my MacBook. But Mac is a little bit involved and it's a little complex. Uh, but I would still advise that face the complexity. Uh, for Windows, you should be able to just get a installer, uh, and you go to, this is for the Mac. For Windows, you should be able to, I'll find the link and put it in the notes, where you should be able to go and install the NVM directly, just like any software. So with that, that's all about I wanted to cover today. Anybody has any questions? Do you guys think the pace was too fast today, or was it slow enough for you guys to understand? Any feedback so we can adjust our pacings accordingly next week?
It's about right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No problem. So before we disconnect, let me take the screenshot of everybody that is here so that you guys have that in a smart. Let me see, it's heating up. But you guys, uh, um, any other cases, I have all of your recordings, so we should be able to mark the attendance accordingly, and we should be good. We should be good to go. Am I audible still? Uh,
Yeah.
my Zoom is trying
Yep.
to not stop. It's trying to share my screen, even though I think we are done. Or in our class session, do me a favor if the Zoom is not coming up. Uh, either on the either on the Slack or in our Slack, actually in the student group, somebody create a thread where we all sort of mark our attendances. And in that thread, similar thread, I will provide the links to book one-on-one time with me if you need more detailed help uh, about uh, more detailed help about the setting up the React projects. Because and I would remind again to the class, you do not need to feel overwhelmed, and you do not need to feel like you're alone. And as I understand, some of you are more familiar